We had a really good conversation last time. It's still in energy in my mind, so I have a lot of confidence that we'll have this same sort of energy again. It doesn't need much to achieve that, I guess. So I'm chill with it, whatever it takes.
Nice. I'm also chill with it, man. I was so excited to speak to you because, like you said, our conversation last time, like, how long did we speak for? For like 4 hours until my laptop died?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. It was the most wholesome conversation that I had in a long time, and it really helped heal my soul. Like, because you were the first person who had experienced psychosis that I was able to talk to after experiencing it myself. It made me like not feel alone, and you made me feel comforting. So I really appreciate you, mate.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to do something like this because also it's a good story in my point of view. So it's not a sad issue or it's not a problem. Well, it is, but also not. So I really like to have a bright view on this sort of crisis. And we had a lovely conversation. So it inspired me also.
It really can turn into a beautiful thing, psychosis. It starts off as a problem, but you find the solutions, right?
Mm-hmm. That's my big lesson to learn to people. I'll do this also now in the Netherlands to the police officers, that I say, well, it's a nightmare, but there's meaning in it. So if you can figure out this meaning through all this tension and crisis, then you come out better with more pace, with more confidence. Well, that's what I show. Sometimes they don't believe it. They say, I'm standing here for you. So what's the big deal? Yeah, so that's really comforting.
Yeah, it's really noble what you're doing. And a lot of people, I think most people, will not believe you or me whenever we share these experiences and tell the positivities from that can come from the learnings of the experience, because like you said, there is a deeper meaning from it. Once we get to the core meaning, we can evolve and develop as a person.
True. Yes.
Jeroen, you were the first person I was able to connect with my psychosis. Who was the first person you were able to connect with after your psychosis?
This is a nice story already. I never had this question before. Well, two people come up in my mind. The first one is a guy. His name is Wim, and it was an acquaintance of a friend of mine, a female friend, and he was at a camping site, and it was after a crisis, about 2005, I guess. I don't know for sure, and I was telling him it was the first time we met, and he just asked some questions, and he was also a social worker. And within 3-4 questions, we were at the core of the crisis I just had. And I thought, oh, I just talked to this guy. I don't know him, but it's okay. He doesn't punish me, or I don't know the words, but he was okay with it without judging me. And I was thinking, this is special. A guy I don't know, I tell him my story in about 5 minutes. Well, this is comforting. Maybe I'll do it next time again because we had a really good story. So he was the first outsider being interested in my background. But your question was, what's the question again? The first person
with psychosis that you're able to connect with and relate to?
Well, then I go back to the first crisis. and I was 18 years old, and I became hospitalized, or they say in the hospital. I had to go to the hospital, forced. It was a forced way. And there I met a girl, also a patient, also in crisis, also with psychosis. So we were victims together, and we connected together, really in a spiritual way also, and really connecting, and really, well, like love or something in the hospital. So it was a really strange situation too. And I was 18 years old, and she was 19 years old, and we shared 4 months of being in the hospital together. And she came out earlier, and she became angry to me, saying, "Jeroen, you're not evolving in this process. You have to." She kicked my ass in some way. She said, "Well, you're not doing okay now. Make moves." And then she got out the hospital, and I said, "Oh, I have to do something." And I came out also. So because we both were in recovery, and we both had this experience of psychosis, we were connected already. So we didn't need to share our story, because we were our story. And I've still contact with her, first with Facebook, and last year we had a congress together, and after summer we will go back to this place in the north of the Netherlands, doing a presentation after a documentary, Blue Monday, sharing our story from then to people who are now in crisis or just after that. Oh, this is amazing already. And the amazing part of it, well, this is going into the deep already. She had in her room at the hospital a poster with art from Gustav Klimt, The Kiss. I don't know if you know it. It's also with mosaic and gold and squares, and it's a man and a female strangled together and kissing each other. And I was blown away by this piece of art. It was just a poster, but I was so open. So, wow, what a poster! And she had it in her room, and I came out of this crisis and got my life back, and always remembering this piece of art. It was just like burned in my brains. And the day I got this poster from another friend, it was about, well, 15 years later. This other friend was moving to America, also a girl, and she said, "You liked this poster, didn't you? Do you want it?" Yeah, of course I want it, because there's this very special story behind it. And I got this poster from her. I hang it immediately in my house. And that evening, this girl called me from back then. At the evening, I got this poster. And she was at that moment in a hospital in Utrecht, together with my brother with psychosis. They exchanged words. They came out. They found out they would know me if we were connected. So my brother gave my phone number to her, and she called that evening. I was at a party at work. I said, "Well, this is unbelievable. You call me now, and I just got this painting in my room from Gustav Klimt, The Kiss." Whoa.
Whoa.
Afterwards, we split again. We didn't have contact. So this was about 2004, I guess. First time in hospital, it was 1992. So it was really a long time afterwards. And last year, I got into contact again with her via Facebook. And we had an appointment together at the same place, a book presentation. It was near her house, and we already knew we would go there, but we didn't know we go there all both. So we met there, and she said, "Well, maybe you like to come at my house first." So I said, "Of course, I will do this." And when I got into her house, she had this poster now as wallpaper.
Really?
Really, by 3 by 4 meters. She had this painting as wallpaper in her house, and I just stood with her. I said, "Well, it's unbelievable standing here with you with this wallpaper." Yeah. So That's my answer of your question. Who was the first to share this psychosis crisis with? That's she.
Wow, that was the most beautiful answer I did not expect.
And one phrase afterwards, when I look back from that to that particular situation, I feel like, well, we were just two angels in the sky smashing into each other and fell down on the ground, and then, yeah, repaired by the hospital. So it was really magic already then.
Wow, there's like so much real life metaphors going on there, and then also the synchronicity of your friend giving you that poster and then her calling you on that day.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that's I had more situations like this, and that's the way. That's why I became a spiritual guy. I was already always really rational, just thinking and proving, but this is something you can't prove in normal reality. So there must be more. So the synchronicity, yeah, I can't skip this in my life. It happens.
yeah, this is something that science it does not have answers for yet, and there is something there.
Well, there are answers, but then we have it about quantum physics, and there's a guy on YouTube also. If you look for a quantum and spirituality, there's a guy O'Hara. I don't know the name, but it's like almost shifting fields together, spiritual field and the science field into quantum. So that's really nice to talk about also, but because in quantum there's no time, all is there, everything is already there, we all are connected. So yeah, that's almost psychosis also.
Literally, yeah. The
This is my answer.
the piece of art, I really want to see it. Would you be able to send me it, and then I can add it to the description as well?
Maybe I can show it a bit on my cell phone if you want.
Yeah, we can do it after if it's okay.
Okay.
I will take notes, however, to remind you.
Yeah. Gustav Klimt, The Kiss. Well, there's also a history behind it, really interesting, because Gustav Klimt was really a popular artist. But if you do research, you can find out that the woman behind him was the driving creativity source of him, because the woman was having, she was a dressmaker or something, but she was in one way the artist, and he was just the guy copying it, maybe. But he became really, really famous, and she didn't. So that's also interesting.
Wow, that's fascinating. I heard that Salvador Dali, he praised his second wife as being the driving force behind his creativity, and he worshipped her as like a goddess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is nice. Well, I'm in my late 40s now. I'm becoming 48.
Are you?
48, yeah.
Wow, you look so young.
End of this year. Yeah. But it's like also being in a what's a midlife crisis situation. That's really like going away with another younger woman or something. But it's not. It's about enforcing my deeper spiritual energies. Is also about sexual energy, and sexual energy is also really related to creativity. And creativity is like bonding and associating in your mind, but it's connecting. And what's the best way to connect as a human man? With women.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if I really want to be creative, I have to explore my energies, also my sexual energy, and not in a way with normal guy female relationships or something, but it's a deeper knowing or a deeper connecting to life. So I follow Dali. Sure.
I also believe that sex is like art in itself. There's so many ways that you can explore it through breath work and experimenting and so many things.
And then also, the Sean Blackwell, I don't know if you know him. It's on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel, Bipolar or Waking Up, and he's doing holotrophic breath work. It's the phrase, dealing with healing from psychosis due to breath work. So that's also, and sex is breathing also, of course. So maybe we can have a psychosis. How do you say? I don't know the word. Behandeling. It's in Dutch, behandeling. How to deal with psychosis? Maybe do with sex breathing. I don't know. Well, whatever.
Use sex breathing for your psychosis.
But that's also a funny story. That I was a coach in the Netherlands for recovery for peer workers, professional peer workers. It's a 1-year study, and there was a student, and we had like a congress after 5 years of having this education program. So this student, Tim Knoten, came from the Rotterdam in Arnhem, where I had to study. And one of my own students said, well, Tim, you have to talk to Jeroen because you talk a bit similar. So Tim came to me and said, hey, hi, I'm Tim. And I heard you're Jeroen, you're one of the coaches. Yeah, true. And he said, well, do you know Sean Blackwell? And I said, yeah, because this evening I will have a Skype session with him for the first time. And Sean is living in Brazil. So, and he just started with, do you know Sean Blackwell? And then he said, well, I know him also because I'm the first Dutch person who had a medical intervention from him with this breath work. Well, okay. That's pretty synchronicity also.
Wow. So did you get to join the call with him?
I did. And he wanted to do a session with me also, but I didn't want it. I didn't feel like, well, this is okay for me, because I was already so much healed in my own process. I didn't believe he could do something for me. But Tim and I, we had also contact. And in this first moment of meeting each other, my art was hanging in a room, and his art was next to me. So we met, and also the art of us was hanging together already. And this was also a meeting like, well, you had also psychosis? Yeah, I had. Well, you also thought something like being Jesus? Yeah. And we okay, both Jesus. Hi, I'm Jesus. Yeah, hi, I'm Jesus. So that was so funny. And 2 weeks ago, I was in the police academy, and he was also there in the afternoon. So the police is hiring me, and he's also hiring him. So we're doing the same path in some way.
Wow, I love the connections you're building and the synchronicities that you're having. You know, a synchronicity that I've been having recently is one of my exes. Every time I go on a date, she texts me on the day.
A new date with another woman. Yeah, of course.
And then the third time this happened, she texted me the day after the date.
Okay.
And then the fourth person I next have a date with, the girl I went with on the third date, she texted me that day.
You put too much energy in the new dates. All those girls, they get it.
That could be it.
Yeah.
So how I learned about synchronicities was through this psychiatrist and psychotherapist called Stanislav Grof. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I never read something about him, but I know his name. Yeah.
He's the creator of holotropic breathwork that Sean does.
Okay.
And he has an amazing book called When the Impossible Happened. You will love it. It's filled with synchronicities. One story that really stands out is his wedding with his first wife. He was in Iceland and he married her with knowing her for like 2 weeks. And like it was like the fairies in Iceland were alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like
yeah.
The nature worked in unison with his wedding, and there was lights and spectacles and all sorts of crazy things that you would not be able to imagine. And I don't remember the story well enough, but it's really worth the read for you.
Yeah. 2 reactions from me, because we are now sharing all this synchronicity stuff. And I say to my students, well, okay, you can see me as a spiritual guy, but in my point of view, my spirituality is from the upside to the ground. So there's a lot of people, they want to be elevated, but in my life, it's in reverse, because I was very in a high position with a lot of anxiousness, taking my own place in the world, and I didn't believe I could, or it was too anxious. So my life is like stepping down step by step to the ground, and finally, after saying to my father, well, I don't want to see you again anymore, it's over, I took my place with myself and my family and my wife and my daughter, holding ground for the first time. That's spirituality for me.
It's like the stairway to earth.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a nice one. Because I say, if it's just being in the sky, it's floating away. You don't have anything about it. You can say nice stories, but it's not connected to the ground. So
yeah, it's not grounded.
And the second, I want to say, I met my wife in Iceland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, that was also a story with the first time she saw me. She was frightened because she had drawn me on a paper at this education program with visualizations. She had to do her eyes closed and what do you see, and she had to draw it, and it was 10 years before that.
Really? Like 10 years before she met you, she drew you on a piece of paper?
Mm-hmm. On a yellow piece of paper. And the real funny story also is it was in 2006 in Iceland, and when we had some 4G in the air, so I could use my internet on my phone, I got a mail from a contest. It was a contest for a spectacle wearer of the year. And I put in a photo, and then they sent back, you're at the last 10. You have to react now, because in 2 weeks we'll have a photo session, and then the winner will be chosen. And I'm now in Iceland, but I will be there. So after I was in Iceland, I went to this photo contest, and I won. So I was the Dutch spectacle wearer of the year 2006. It's amazing, dull story, but it happened. And the photographer of this contest was a Playboy photographer, and he made a picture of me with a beard, and I had a yellow t-shirt on. And this photo, next to this drawing of my wife about me on yellow paper, it's like equal.
Yeah. Wow.
I can send it. You can put it in the footage in the video. Tuk, tuk.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
And we have a joke also, because when we tell this at night at a party with a lot of beers, and then once there was a joke, yeah, sure, she had drawn you. Well, she has in her room a lot of drawings 20, 30 of boys. And she looks a boy and I said, hey, he's like a drawing. I can tell him this story. I draw him. And then she picks out one of the 30 drawings and look, it's you. It could be this, but it wasn't. She only had one drawing.
Really? She only had one drawing? Wow, that's unbelievable. Why were you both in Iceland? Like, what were you doing?
Well, that's again back to psychosis crisis, because in 2005 I had my fourth psychosis. I had 5, so that was the almost the last one. And I was in my room at a hospital with a forced staying there, and I heard a news item on the radio, and everything was blur, but that piece, that soundbite, I really took in, and it was like, well, there's something floating in Iceland, a block of ice, and it's really a nice blue colored block of ice, and it was very special. And that was just in the news at the radio. And then I thought, well, this is it, because my father said, when you finish your graduation, you can have a trip with me. I'll pay, and you can choose your destination. And I thought, well, I don't know, but we'll see. And then I heard this news item about Iceland, and I thought, I don't know anything about Iceland, but it's attracting in some way to me, so we have to go to Iceland. So that's what I told my father. We'll go to Iceland when I'm finished with my social work. Iceland, it will be the destination. And he said, well, don't you want to go to Turkey? It's like warm. And no, we do Iceland. Okay. So that was the reason to go to Iceland from a crisis moment.
Wow, so you went with your father?
Yeah.
And how did you meet your wife?
Aukje is my wife's name. Aukje was in Nijmegen and I live in Arnhem, so it was about 20 kilometers only. We even have the same group of friends. We didn't know. And she was just like, I don't have money, but I want a vacation, so let's work at a travel company. And they hired her to be a cook. Is it cook in English? To make the meals.
Yeah, chef.
Yeah, a chef. She was the chef, and she was a co-driver. So she was already in Iceland the first day, getting meals ready and groceries and etc. etc. And she saw me on a list, like, oh, okay, we have this couple of people, and oh, I see he has medication, and maybe, okay, interesting. So before she knew me, she already saw I had a plus account in this list of travelers, and my father also.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would be afraid that would put most people off, but that was not the case with her.
No, she say also at the police with workshops, when she's with me, sometimes we do it together. She said, well, I was interested in this guy. Well, it's a nice project. I want to know about it. So the first day we met, in about 2 hours already, I told everything, my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you continued the conversation afterwards?
This is funny. There are interesting questions about it. Well, I didn't know at that moment she already drew me, but she did. So she was really scared. She thought, what the fuck? What is this guy? I know him. So it took her about 3 days before telling me. It was at night, everybody was asleep, and we were getting drunk with vodka like stuff. And then she said, well, I have to say something. Okay. I made a drawing about you. Oh, okay. And what I have to do now, something like that. So I didn't know anything, but I was also thinking, I don't need anything to get this girl, because it's already fixed by a universe. So I thought, well, this is really easy. But the next morning we had to go away very soon, very early in the morning, and we crossed our path. She was having a toothbrush, and she was just neglecting me. And I thought, oh, okay, I don't know how to deal with this, because it was a really awkward situation. So nothing happened during those 2 weeks. And also my father was like in this piece of theater going in and out. So it was really awkward. So nothing happened. And after this vacation, we were at Schiphol, at the airport, and waiting for our train, and then taking the same train, of course, to Arnhem and Nijmegen. And then just in a coupe with citizens traveling, we had our first kiss. After very romantic sceneries with 60 kilometers of view, we didn't do anything. No, just in a train. Oh.
I love that. I love that so much. Wow.
And I want to say more about it, because this was 2006, and I heard this message from Iceland in 2005 in the hospital. And in that moment of time, I had an other girlfriend, and I won't say her name. And this girlfriend had really a tough time. I didn't knew it. Afterwards, I knew, but I didn't knew it. And we broke up. And I was really like, well, it's too hard to disconnect with you. Can we have a date in 2 years or something that we can connect again? Okay, let's do this. So we had a spot, we had a date, we had a time. And she also said, Jeroen, I don't want to that you use my name, because I can feel it and it's too much energy for me. So don't mention my name. I said, okay, I will do that. And in the hospital at night, some evening, I went to sleep and I just said, well, good night, and her name. And the next morning she called, did you set my name? No. Yes. Don't do that again. Oh, okay. So that was also so much connection. And when we were together at my living room, sometimes the bulbs of the light, they bursted, because we had so much energy. And that was 2005, and we met at Queen's Night. That's a special celebrity evening of Queen's Day, and then the night before. So there was a lot of festivals, and we met at the pop center, and really attracting to each other. And it was just a romance about 7 months, because it was April and she died in September, and I didn't knew, but she jumped out of the window, because she heard voices, and I didn't know that. So she ended her life, and afterwards I found out that we had contacts just minutes before. So I was the last person in the world she had contact with by phone.
Wow, that's a sad story.
So I didn't knew she was gone already. I thought she had another breakup moment, like a vacation, and another girlfriend of mine, she called me, Jeroen, I saw a card at my work, and she was like, this name, yeah, that's she. Well, she died. Oh. And I was biking from my father's home to Arnhem again. It was about 50 kilometers. I was halfway, and my heart was like an explosion in my heart. So much love I felt for her, and suddenly I heard she was dead. So I already was a patient, so I immediately called my social worker and for helping, and calling a friend, and it was like a warm bath. All those people around me were caring for me. So my neighbor took me in, have a meal, and you can sleep with me if you want, and I did also. So 2005 was like a hell. It was never so painful for me. But I just went on, and I just had to finish my social work, and it was like 4 or 5 months afterwards. So I called school again and said, well, I've just this and this to do, but I don't know if I can because this was just what just happened to my life. And this coach said, well, just come over and we'll see. So 2006 started like this. And I finished my degree in social work in March. And I got a job. And I got this travel with my father. And I met Aukje. And I became the spectacle wearer of the year 2006. And I was allowed to go to London in the Hilton for the European contest, and I lost that one, but that doesn't bother. I was like famous in one moment. I have pictures of it, doing catwalk lessons by a guy, and it was amazing. So 2006 was a celebrating year. And 2005 was like hell, and 2006 was like heaven. And meeting Aukje, and I thought that's why I tell it, because it was so painful, this meeting with this girl I loved so much. Afterwards, I said to myself, well, I'll skip anything about what I want in a wife. I don't have any agenda. When someone is in my life and we have fun and we like it, well, she can stay, I can stay, and we'll see. I don't have any expectations is the word, I guess, yeah. And then Aukje came in my life. And after 2 years, we had a little baby, Suza.
Wow, Jeroen, you need to write a book, mate.
I have to, yeah. I know.
I will be the first person to buy the book.
Oh, wow. You know already. Oh, I know that. Oh, I know this. Oh, that's just you already know anything. Well, it's in my workshops about psychosis. I tell the bad parts of my life in about 2 hours, and always I think, I never can tell anything. Or I tell the whole story. It's too much to tell in 2 hours. But it would be so nice to do the whole route. That's the profit of having a book. Then I can say, well, I skipped this part, read the book. Let's go on to the next chapter.
Yeah, man, definitely. I want you to do that. I think it will be a really great deed for society. Not only for educational purposes, but also for entertainment purposes.
But that's the difficulty, because I don't know. Do I want to have a management book or about education, about psychosis or spiritual growth or whatever, or about my I don't know the word how to say it, autobiography? That's it. Yeah, I don't know. So because I don't know, nothing happens. I also think just a book with drawings and a bit of poetry. Besides, it's also so it's too many options.
I would definitely add the art if I were you, as you're an artist. It would be like, it wouldn't be your book if it didn't have art in it.
That's true.
There's a picture can describe 1,000 words, right?
That's why I picture it. It's much easier for me to just have this flow in one piece of paper instead of this whole story, because it's too much to tell, I guess. Yeah.
See your friend that was hearing voices, you were the last person to speak to before she jumped off.
Mm-hmm.
That conversation that you had with her, did you notice that she was distressed or anything? Or
yeah, because she said last words, "Hey, Jeroen, just remember me as we were in the beginning."
Oh man.
And then I said, "Ooh, don't say that." It's okay, like trying to comfort her, but it was her say goodbye. I didn't know.
Yeah, there's no stopping it at that point, right?
And afterwards, I heard that she survived the first collapse with the ground, and she said in the arms of her mother, I guess, "I want to live." So after the fall, she decided to being alive, but she didn't make it. And this is like the criticism to the mental health care. She was a really beautiful woman, so she went to the psychiatrist, and he just saw this beautiful woman with a mask and looking pretty, and she asked for help, and she didn't get it.
Really?
Mhm.
The psychiatrist said she was all right, or?
He didn't took the problems as much serious as he had to do.
Wow, that's shocking.
Yeah.
I would have never imagined that would have been the case. Like,
And well, yeah, it's a sad story, but it's also really a nice story because I remember her with her fun, and what she did one day at my house, she put me in front of the mirror and he said, Jeroen, look at the mirror, look at you, what do you see? So she forced to look at me in a good way because she felt from the inside I didn't. That's the gift she gave.
wow. Her lessons live on through your stories.
Yeah, for sure. And she had also a nickname to me. It's like the slow one, the slome. It's in Dutch. Hey, slome. The guy was such slow because the evening we met, I just waved the whole evening. So hi. And the first contact we had, she was far away and a lot of guys behind her and asking for attention. And I just waved because I felt, well, this connection is already made in just a blink of an eye. So waving is enough and we'll see. And then after 1 or 2 hours, hey, are you giving me a drink or something or what? So she used me always after that, like you're so a slow mover. You don't have any yeah, daadkracht. It's in Dutch, having the courage to do action. So I'm the slow guy in her opinion. So that's a nice nickname to me.
The slow but steady wins the race. The tortoise beats the hare, right?
Oh, I don't know that one.
No, it's
It's Irish or not?
it's like a nursery rhyme. It's about a rabbit racing a tortoise, and the rabbit was really.
Oh yeah, the chasing. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's about timing.
Pardon?
Or when I do an action, it's okay, but when I don't do an action, like having administration or something, there's something in between that needs attention. So I try to be mild to myself. When I don't do something, there's something bigger. I don't fix it already. So for every moment, it's a good time to do something. If it's not, it's not. Like acknowledging what is.
Jeroen, I want to touch a bit on your psychosis,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to go into your recovery and your spirituality.
Yeah.
Then I want to look at the amazing work that you're doing, VR,
Oh.
and finally, I'm not forgetting about that documentary you slipped in, which I have not heard about yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited to hear about. But yeah, I'm gonna start off with the question: why do you think you had psychosis?
Ah. I was breaking a pattern. And we know it now because it's called in Dutch transgenerationele overdracht, transgeneration projection of trauma. It's something I felt in my life, all my life, in my family system. But I didn't knew the real stories. I just felt it, and I didn't knew what's mine and what's my father's or my mother's. And then I just fell into this psychosis crisis first time at 18 years old. And in those years afterwards, I always was thinking, why happened it to me? It was already happening to my brother, but I'm a healthy guy. I don't have problems, but it happened. And first, I just skipped it. It was just one time, and I forget it. But then it happened second time, and then a third time. And during this third time, I was educating myself as a social worker, learning to be reflective and to be known in your family systems, what the problems are, and you have to know yourself for helping others. So the blind spots, etc., etc. So I became really curious about, well, what's me? What's my family system? And why did I get this psychosis? And bit by bit and puzzle by puzzle, I found out it's about my life, but also in relation with the traumas of my parents.
Would you be willing to share some of those traumas?
Yeah, sure. Well, that's also the workshop content I share with police. And I say, well, the first time I experienced psychosis was in 1980. Then I was 6 years old and I saw my brother in psychosis. And my mother was with him in the night and at the bathroom, and I heard stumbling and I looked around and I saw him shaking. Probably it was from the medication, from Haldol. And I saw this.
Sorry, Aldo?
Yeah, Haldol, it's a medication, very antipsychotic drug.
Oh, okay.
A tough one. And sawing this with the energy of, whoa, this is high voltage content, not for children. That's what I felt. Too much what I see here. So I went back to my room and nobody had seen me seeing this. And my brother went to hospital and afterwards came home and doing crazy things. He had a lot of attention, a lot of room in the family system. And that went on for years. He had psychosis after psychosis, and we went to family therapy also with a camera. So the whole family was in this, therapeutic crisis. And my oldest brother was the black sheep in this situation because he was doing strange things. But afterwards, many years afterwards, my brother told me, well, the reason I got in a psychosis state was because I found out our father has prefer a homosexual life. So my father is homosexual, and that was a taboo, and he didn't tell my mother, and nobody knew. But my brother discovered pornography magazines showing it. So he went to my father, telling him, and that became a conflict, and he was never allowed to talk about it again. So my brother was about 14 years old when he got his first psychosis. It was because he was getting an adult with an adult as a role model having two lives. So it wasn't safe in our family. That's the taboo. That was the bad vibe in our system. I was the youngest, so I have three brothers. We are with four. One adoption brother also from South Korea. And I was a very sensitive boy, wanting harmony in the family, because when there's harmony, I feel best. So I create my own harmony. But it was too much to create. So I got already a sort of social work role in my own family. Well, and this tension took also over me. Yeah. What I know now about my father is from 1939. So it's 1 year before World War II in the Netherlands. He's from Rotterdam. So he was a baby with the bombing from the Germans. So that is already trauma.
Rotterdam completely got blown up, right? Yeah. Like the city is completely new because none of the buildings are left over. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. There's an amazing sculpture also. I don't know the name, but it's a man having his hands like this, and his heart is totally open. So that's the center of Rotterdam Bond.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, and I know from not family but friends of my father. My father shared once a story. I don't know the details, but when he was 4 years old, he disconnected to his father, and he had said something like, "You're dead from now on for me." So he was a toddler. He was a young boy disconnecting with my grandfather because something happened. And I don't know what. I don't even want to know it. So this is the content also I share with police in my workshops. So I said, there is my start of trauma and a pattern of not okay relationship between father and son. So it's generational issuing. And in my life, I also had this disconnection because I don't see my father anymore. I won't be on his funeral. I made a decision. It's not a good thing for my life having him in my life. But I love my father, and it's okay in spiritual way, but not in the normal reality relationship, because he is so much damaged inside. He is so much in pain. He is not able to love me as a father to his son, because he didn't know how to achieve love from my grandfather. So this is psychosis for me, having this energy, what's not a good energy, to stop it, to break this pattern. And I really did, in a way, saying to him, well, I say goodbye now, and I turn my back to you, and my life is in front of me, and you are in my back, and that's for me okay. I trust you in this position. But that was the most vulnerable way to take position towards him, because him in my back, and he is not a safe guy. Even my father, that's scary, and that's the anxious vibe. I it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I had this image all my life, and then it came out. So it's my creation of life, having this constellation to my father that I draw back to him, and he accepted this way of saying goodbye. So we had a hug, and it was okay. I thought, very naive, because half year after that, he sent me an email with just 14 letters saying, "This by this mail you are, I don't know the word in English, orphanage, that you don't get your money when he's dead."
Oh, he does not have your name in his will.
Mm-hmm. So he said, in one way, you're not a son to me anymore. Just with 14 words. And that triggered me a lot. All the tension I built up in my life after this decision. So it looked like a psychosis again. It was in 2018. I had a lot of energy, and you can say all those labels from mental health, like mania and psychosis. But I really got this in my mind, like, well, I made this step to him, and this is his reaction. So I can manage this. It's my decision. So I'll take care of myself. And it went like this. Even with the tension of Aukje, seeing, whoa, it's going back, it's going wrong again. I felt it's her tension, it's not my tension. I'm okay, I know what I do. That was like an end game in a computer game. The really big guy, and you have to shoot a lot before he dies. And then I won. That's how I look to it.
That's a great metaphor.
Yeah, so that was 5 psychosis crisis, going through this tension and all those other stories I already told you. It was like facing my biggest own fear, doing something for myself instead of for my father, stepping out this loyalty, choosing for myself, my family.
So You experienced 5 psychoses, and how long after the 5th psychosis
Mm-hmm.
did you say to your dad that we are stopping all communication?
It is about 6 years. So the last one was the end of 2011, and this was 6 October 2018. Bright Sunday. And I dreamed about it before. In September, I had a dream, and I woke up from this dream crying. I never woke up crying out of a dream. And in this dream, I really saw my father, and I was at this front door, and I said, hello, here I am. I have just one card. And if I give this card to you, then I'll be gone. And next month, a police officer will be at your door saying I'm gone forever. That's my prediction. So this card, I give it to myself. I give it not to you, I give it to myself. And when that happened in this dream, he was shrinking and crying and screaming, and I felt his pain. And seeing that made me waking up crying. And Aukje was next to me. She woke up also. And the first thing I said, oh, I really hope this dream will be true. So my ego was like giving up the theater of life and saying, this is it. This is what you have to do. So I did.
You didn't, and what did it feel like whenever you did it?
Feeling proud, having pace, and calmness, and my own decision, and afterwards the family at home, at my own family system, was far more okay. No interferences anymore. No too much responsibility to my father.
It's like you removed the weed from the garden and the tree grew and blossomed.
Yeah, well, nice set. Yeah. I had a lot of responsibility for him because he's a very naive guy. He has a degree at the doctor's university, whatever, in economics. But he's so naive. So people made use of this naivety, and they stole money from him about 4 or 5 times. First time in 1994 or 1996, something about 350,000 guldens back then. It's not euros, but half of it. Guys of making advantage of homosexual guys with a taboo, so they can chantage him. And after I say goodbye to him, it happened again. But before, when I was in contact, I said to him, "Well, you have methods of someone else taking care of your money. So if you want money, you have to ask for it, and then it's protected. So you can't be blackmailed again." And then he went very angry at me. Well, don't bother, and how you dare to say something like this? I said, okay, I just give you advice. But after I said, well, we're out of contact, so I turned back to him. It was in the media. It was at YouTube about a program of an old man in Zwaal and 80 years old and blackmailed for 80,000 euros and 20,000 euros in 2 times. And I was reading it, and Aukje showed me, and I said, well, this must be my father, definitely. And I was already having my work with police, so I sent to a police officer, hey, do you know this? Can you check on me if this is my father? No, I can't do it. Okay, I will check my own acquaintances. And then it came out, it was really my father. And I thought, well, this is like explosions somewhere in my back. It's not my responsibility anymore. So fuck him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not your shit to deal with anymore.
Yeah.
Not to ask, I'm too curious. How does one get blackmailed for 80,000
Oh, yeah. Well, my father is a lonely guy. So there are people on the internet. I say, I want to be at your house. I will go to you. We can relate. You're my friends. I love you. You're the best man I know. So it's like internet blackmailing. And well, before I come to the Netherlands, it was some guy in Nigeria, but also Turkish guys, because I have to lend some money from you because then I can finish the mortgage of a house and then I can pay you back. So that sort of stories. And my father believed it, everything. Even when my brother said, well, it's not true. Look, this guy already had victims in England and no, he loves me and I love him. And
wow, so he helped a lot of fraudsters. Well, I'm sure the fraudsters are grateful for his naivety.
Yeah, this is a painful story. So I've a not so good relation with money, but that's changing because everything I do now as my own solo business is my own earned money, and I like it more and more to send the bill for my work. But there was a lot of tension in it. Also a family generation issue.
Tension in you charging for your work?
Mm-hmm. Because I learned, it's funny, I'm into this topic. My father had his role of a father by doing all the finance and taking care of us with money, not with his heart. So this connection with power is like, hey, you have to listen to me or I don't give you money. So it's entangled. His power, his fatherness is made by giving the finance or the money, and then we say, oh, thank you, father, for the money. Yeah, you're father, I'm child. Thank you. That is his way of being a father. He only knows this way of being a father. And that is related to trauma, to collective trauma from World War II, because then my grandparents didn't have food and money. So this is like giving the children after this generation, just prepare for a good life, have a career, have a good house, have a good salary. That's the best you can do in life. So take care of that. That's the most important thing to do. So all those adults were growing up with this mindset. It's from fear, and they weren't allowed to cry or to feel emotions or to have this mismatch with adults because they have to run after a career.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. So that's collective trauma. It's still like tension energy in the sky, and people like us are tapping from it. It's too much, so your mind blows.
Yeah.
Relating to this, I guess.
So I have a bit of a funny relationship with trauma because during my psychosis, I had a lot of images. I actually spoke to you about the images, but I've not shared about it publicly, and I'm not going to share about it publicly. I'm not ready for it.
Mm-hmm. I see you're touched by the story, by the way. So, yeah.
It makes me think that I have a lot of unanswered questions whenever it comes to trauma. What you did a lot of family therapy from whenever you were a kid, and like now you're in the position you are in. What did you do for trauma recovery?
Mm-hmm. Working.
Working. Yeah.
Yeah. Being there for people in need and really listening to their stories and relating to them with my system, with my heart, and saying, well, thank you for the confidence for having this talk, and now I go home. And then my process began of, that's a pretty courage step to take from this person I work for as a health worker. What's my process in this? So it is like the ego with a journey in healthcare to finally go with my own pain and trauma and issues. So that's also really strange because in the Netherlands, in a crisis with psychosis, you go to the mental health care hospital, but there's no therapy. It's just like it was. It's changing now, fortunately. But back then, it just was, well, fixating in the isolation cellar, doing drugs in. And when the drugs is helping and you're steady, then you go out. So nobody asked about my traumas. I saw my mother dying in the hospital when I was 15 at my birthday. Nobody ever asked about it in mental health care. The issues with my father, it was not allowed to stand between my father and me as a healthcare worker, because then you're splitting the system. That is like a taboo. No, you just have loyalty to the adults, and you say what's wrong to me as a child. So it's like a wall instead of comforting or
Yeah.
And you ask something else. You ask what I did. So I worked.
You work.
And my creativity. So all the stuff I made is like creating puzzles and building an image about me. And that's also my work. With social work, you learn how to have a helicopter view on micro system, yourself, your own family, and then meso system. It's like a city, and macro system is like society, and it's all connected. So I learned to hoover up and down and seeing what it is. I see myself in a system, in a bigger system, and well, that's what I did, puzzling a lot. And every time I made a drawing or a creation or poetry or music, I stored it in my archives, in my head, in my heart, just puzzling through my life. And well, I told you the key moments in my life that were like a mirror to me. And then I could look back to this whole story of roots I already had, knowing myself, playing piano. It's like AMDR. It's like left, right, left, right. They do that in a therapeutic way, but I do it myself. So I'm an autodidact in trauma, helping trauma, my own trauma. So it was only last year I was in a congress for the house doctors. What is huisarts? Yeah.
General practitioner.
The general practice. I had a education a pitch for them online, and it was started by my own general practice. I don't say that.
Practitioner.
Practitioner. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then I said, well, that's a strange thing. I never had trauma therapy or something. Well, she said, well, we can fix it. We can search someone to do this. So I got a psychologist. That's a word I can say easier. A psychologist. And after 5 sessions, he said, well, I can give you a label or something, but you're so much grown into your life and with your trauma, and you're so related to it. I can't do not so much for you. And he mirrored me in some way at the 4th appointment. And then I cried and I felt, I'm just this 60-year-old boy where there's no issue with it. So I felt my healthy 16-year-old presentation of back then back into my system. That was my therapy. He said, "You're okay," and then I came on. Well, it's over. I don't need any trauma therapy anymore.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
If you could speak to your 16-year-old self, like right now, you get teleported and you meet him face to face, what would you say to him?
Well, that's a really good question, because yesterday I made a poem about this, and yeah, really, and I made it also with drawing and with piano, so it's a nice piece of art in some way. I posted it on LinkedIn also, and what I say in this poem, I say to him, well, your job is done. You're finished. You can have a really big dream sleep now. And I bring you, as an adult, I bring this guy of 16 years old to your mom, to death, to heaven. That's your place. Go there, because you're finished. And I say goodbye to you now forever. You're in me, so you can step into me. That's okay now. But I won't be an adult part reflecting the young parts. That's bullshit. That's crap. There's only one me. But I acknowledge there was a 16-year-old boy. But come here, and I sent you to heaven, to my mother. Shut up. You're finished. You did a great job, but it's finished. Stop with it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'll add the video in the description.
Yeah.
I would like to see I'd like to hear the music and see the art. I'm not going to be able to understand the Dutch, obviously, but
yeah, it's in Dutch. Yeah. It's funny because I went writing and I used the numbers of the years: 1988, 1989. 1989 is the year my mother died. 1988 is the year the Netherlands won with soccer. So they were champions. And I say in this poem, I'm a champion too now. And in 1988, I was having a lot of pain in my knees. So I start telling I was defending in the field, running my knees broken. That's how I start, because I really had problems with my knees. And now I know that's my life, that's my body creating some sort of blocking issue with pain, because what you have to carry is so much pain. It's not allowed to go to the ground already. So we block this with pain, and then it will be contained, and it can go loose when you're ready for it. That's about now.
Yeah, the body keeps the score, right?
Right.
Yeah. You recommended me that book, actually, so thank you.
Yeah. Afterwards, I had this phrase: the body keeps the score as long as the mind keeps the delusion.
Wow. I'm going to quote that. Would you mind talking about your first experience with psychosis?
The first time, what do we? Yeah, we have to zoom in a bit. I was 18 years old. Yeah, that's funny. But the police, with this education workshop with virtual reality, they said, "Huh? Do you know all those stuff from back then in psychosis?" Yeah, of course, I know a lot in psychosis. Oh, we thought when someone's crazy in psychosis, they don't remember anything, and you can't talk to them. And yeah, sure, you can talk to me. I'm glad when you talk to me and give me two options to choose from, because I'm in a state with a lot of options. So you can do a lot of good communication when someone is in psychosis, and we will remember. So do a good thing with good intention, because we will remember. Okay, check. So the funniest story I can tell about this first crisis is, I have to skip a lot, but I was in the northern of the Netherlands for my military, how do you say? duty. Yeah, and then they check on you if you're a okay soldier or not. Well, and I was in psychosis, so I got this code of okay, go home. And it was in Groningen. It's a big city. I didn't know, so they pushed me on the street and they said go home. And I was already in psychosis, so it's not a very careful thing they did. And I was wandering in the city, and I had this delusion of I'm a social soldier with a special task to save the world. And I say to police nowadays, and here I am doing it. But back then, I didn't.
Your prophecy came true.
Yeah. Now they appreciate what I say, but back then it was. But I was talking a lot to people, trying to connect. I remember talking to a girl, and I said, "Well, I know also have a nice girl at my class, and I really like her. Yeah, sure. But now I'm home, so bye." And she shut the door, and I was standing outside. Huh? But disconnecting, I really, it was really bothering me. And so I was talking and walking in this inner city and losing my mind also. And then I found out, I have to go home. How do I do this? Well, and I saw an auto at a stop sign, and I just opened the door. I said, "Can you bring me to the station?" And it was like an economic guy with a suitcase, and I just put the suitcase aside and just sit in his car, and he was like, "Well, go out." Of course. So I guess he called the police or something. So there came police on a horse. And that's the best story I tell you, because this guy was really angry at me. So he took me like here and said, "Well, shut up now and do normal," something like that. But at that moment, the horse itself stood with his leg on my feet. And that hurted a lot. I was like holding here and being on the ground by the horse with a lot of pressure.
Wow, that would hurt.
Really, yeah. It's a big horse that they use at the police. It's not like a little pony of 1 meter high. It looks like such a horse. And I just, oh, lovely horse, like really being lovely to this animal. And what I say to the police officers now, I say, you don't learn in the police academy like a handle. If I do this, the horse is stepping forward. So no, they do. He did this horse with his natural intention. He felt like, woo, this guy is way too high in the sky. I have to bring him back here to the ground, I guess. And it helped because it's like a shock. It's like being slapped in the face, and then you're a bit normal again. So it helped me.
Wow, so thank you, horse.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Wow. And then they took you to the psychiatric ward?
Yeah, I came home really late at night and in the evening, and my father was in the living room, and my oldest brother also, and my father had a girlfriend at that moment. She was also in the room, and I came in really hungry also. I didn't eat anything, and I was like, immediately I was like angry because they didn't do anything like, "Oh, you must be hungry," or "What? Where have you been?" Or no, there was nothing. He was just reading papers, reading the newspaper, and I felt this is awkward. This is so hypocrite. I saw it's like being in a piece of theater, having these roles they play. It's not real. It's not connected. It's not love. It's not caring. It's nothing. So I went sky high angry in one moment. Afterwards, I can say, well, that's an okay reaction.
Yeah.
And I felt this tension also. I couldn't handle it anymore. So I went up stairs to my living room and screamed and yelled, and I heard my father calling to the general practitioner. It's a difficult word. Sorry, guys, my English is not the best. And I felt like, what's the word? Cheated. He was calling to this guy, yeah, my son is screaming a lot. It felt so unsafe. Loyalty. And then this guy came, and I pretended I was asleep, and he just put medication in my mouth and went away again. And I spit it out. And after 5 minutes, I came down really angry at that moment. So my trust was gone and the loyalty was gone. And I just thought, what can I do? I ran away. I go to my brother, my adoption brother. He was living about 20 kilometers from the town I lived. And it was in November. And I just called him with a real telephone. We didn't have the mobile phones. I said, can I come to you because it's not okay here? Yeah, he said, sure, you can come. Okay, I'll come right now. So I hang up the phone and ran away from home without a jacket, without anything, without a wallet, without keys. I just started running. And it was November, it was raining, and it was with lightning also. That's a good part in the book when I make it. It's like a movie. And I was standing there in the fields, in the green fields, at the farmer with an iron stick, like, well, lightning, come here. I'm not scared. And I ran and I ran and I ran, and I hoped my father was looking afterwards me, but he didn't, of course. But it was my delusion already.
Wow. You create that movie scene so well.
Yeah. And then it ended at a place where we were having a camp, a vacation place with tent and something. So it was a good remembrance moment. I thought, oh, I know this place here at the riverside. And then I broke mentally. So I couldn't run anymore, and I started to contact the farm, going on the trespassing is the word. And there's this farmer. I said, well, go away. And I tried to open his car to sit in, and this farmer came out and put the door open from the stable where the cows were. And he was just standing in the doorway. He didn't let me in, and I felt on the floor, laying to his under above your knee, under your knee, this place of the bones. And I felt this warmth of the stable, and that was comforting me because I was so cold. And he called the police, and they took me away there. And he said, what's your name? Where do you want to go to? Yeah, to my brother. Okay, we'll bring you to the police station. It was a good moment from police. And then a crisis psychiatrist came, and he said, well, I have to take you to the hospital. And then mentioned the name Bethesda. I don't know that. It's like a Catholic name. So I was really confused. And then the driver of the ambulance, he asked, I'm smiling. It's a good tip also. He said, do you want the small car or the big one? Yeah, the big one. That's my first recovery action. My first recovery question also. What do you want? This or this? So this guy helped me a lot. He took my answer serious.
That's nice of him to show you, compassion. Interesting time. So your brother also experienced a psychosis, and you seen it whenever you were 5, and he was 14.
Mm-hmm.
Your adopted brother?
No, that's my natural brother, the oldest. Yeah.
Yeah. Was your adopted brother in the house whenever your family were going through these issues of the family therapy and witnessing?
Yeah, he had also his part. Well, when I look back to my family system from origin, it's a lot of mess. So my oldest brother had psychosis. My second brother, he had this stotteren. It's in Dutch. This not talking. So he had a lot of tension also.
It's a stutter for us.
Oh yeah, okay. And my adoption brother, he had also a lot of fights and stealing money and not saying his real name to the police. But there was only one Korean in our town, so they came to our address really easily. So that sort of things. And he didn't say anything, but outside at the neighbors, we can hear him laugh so loud. So outside he was, oh, and inside he didn't say anything. That's my adoption brother. But I really have a good contact with him. And he says, well, if I look to the papers, I never was allowed to be adopted in this family. And that's really comforting for me because it's what it is. So we are standing in both the same position. It's not an okay family. Yeah. My mother was really okay in some ways. So I had a really good bond with my mother because she was also high sensitive and very warm and very loving. So that's sunlight to me when I look back to this time. She was rather okay. But in this constellation, she wanted to hold everything together, and not knowing my father had this double life. So she imploded with cancer, I guess. This energy was too complex to hold.
Probably holding a lot in herself.
Yeah.
To keep the family stable.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all this, mate. It's very deep, all this, and I'm sure it's not easy to talk about a lot of this stuff.
It is. Yeah. It's my work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's giving away the story. It's not. It's just what I mentioned about my mother. She kept it for herself. So yeah, then you get cancer, and I give it to the world, and I get relieved and calm, and it's a good cause, and it's like gold sharing.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that anything that you keep inside of you, it needs to be released, and if it doesn't get released, it will grow and rot and have mold.
Yeah.
And infect every bit about.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
And that was definitely the case with my psychosis. I was holding in so much.
Yeah, that's true. I say also it's a grounding process. If there's so much energy in my heart and it wants to go out and I want to think about it, then I connect with my head to this energy and then it bursts upwards. So the lesson is that's a good thing. The mind, it can structure and it can think and you can have in control and pressure it, but it's too much energy to control. So my mind learned how to connect with the whole and having comfort with it and trust and being like carried in the whole and being a part of the whole. And my mind is just like an antenna receiving and connecting and sending, but not more than that. And then I learned to talk. This is energy like here, like what we do now in a horizontal way. And my hands can connect horizontally with people. And I can give a hug and I can hug myself. And day by day, it's getting lower, lower, lower. Slowly pushing it through my heart. And I felt really like this in my heart sometimes, like undrawing unreleasing a towel, like when you want the water out of a wet towel,
Yeah, bringing it out.
dry it like that. It's like being entangled, and my heart was really opening a bit. Whoa, it was so painful. But I believed, well, this is so good what I feel now inside. And 5-6 years later, so again, and being now with my stomach, and bit by bit by bit, it's like having his journey to the ground, literally. And my mind is now so, it's like cement, it's like a fundament, it's closing. It's a lot of times I feel like an itch and energy spike from, oh, well, what's this? But I learned to open, close, open, close.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much I want to talk to you about.
Yeah. I also have this image, like being in the oceans, and it's an anemone or anemone. It's like those plants that have this antennas.
Anemone.
Yeah, that one. And my head is like this, so in the ocean, so, and it's really like this. My normal head is maybe like this, but my head is like everything he wants to connect and to achieve. But it's really nice to learn, I can do this. Just tuning in to myself. What's here? Oh, this is not so nice. Okay. And like eating a bit or something, and then, okay, now I can go open again a bit. And then being in the waves. So this process, so open, close, that's so nice to learn.
Wow. You're making me want to practice more of being fluid, being free, and accepting the moment.
I can see it. Yeah, you were really touched. Yeah.
Jeroen, you experienced 4 more psychoses.
Yeah. Every psychosis is too much time to talk about, I guess.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, we will be able to go over all 4 of the psychoses maybe another time.
Yeah. Well, the last one is a really interesting one. Do you want to hear something about it? Also about trauma?
I do. And before you tell the story, I also want to hear about the time that you were in the room in the psychiatric ward and you drew the door.
Yeah, that was the last one.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. I sent you 2 photos, and I made about 20 photos of this time because it was 11 days along. And the last one is a clear picture. It's not psychotic anymore. You see an adult guy and a girl. And I drew my daughter as a moment in future, because back then she was only 3 years old, and I drew like a girl about 8-9 years old. And I say, if I have this hand, so follow me. That's what I drew, like a future image. I even have photograph from a couple of years ago like this, standing with flowers. I also drew flowers in her hand. The key moment is showing me myself, look, you have to be a father and walk in front and take your daughter with you. Well, I told you the story between me and my father, 2018, and this was 2011. So I had drawn my lesson while I was really crazy and in psychosis. That's what I had to do. And in that time, the newspaper in the Netherlands, Trouw, made also a podcast about it, isolation monologues. And I tell in this podcast about my moment I lost my mind and thinking I was dying, because I was sleeping and I felt a lot of light and a lot of peace, and then there was a nurse waking me up and saying, "You don't wake up, we have to eat." And I said, "No, I'm dead. I'm dead. You're an angel. I'm dead. I know it for sure." "No, you're not dead. We are having a meal." "Really?" So he had to comfort me in about 15-20 minutes, because he really believed I was already in heaven. That happened. So this other picture I sent you is like this flower with a lot of energy and path, and it's like the whole or something, or maybe it's my whole life. It's like an explosion of energy. It's like being reborn. It's like, yeah, get rid of my old life and choosing a new life. So I chose for life.
Wow, that's profound. And you just quoted the movie Trainspotting. Have you seen Trainspotting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I choose life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never used drugs, so this movie really had an imprinting on me when he was cold turkey stopping drugs, and in his, well, that was hell, I guess,
Yeah.
too. But this was also my hell. 11 days of isolation, asking for help with a button, and it didn't came. Even after, during the night, using too much of this button for crying, of asking for help, they put on the radio at maximum. So it was like torture, a whole night long. Really, so a pop sender with a lot of jingles, and I was so open. So it was so much not okay that period of time. Yeah.
Being ignored is one of the worst feelings.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm a practitioner of family constellation work. I don't know if you know that, but one thing you learn is there are 4 principles. It's the balance between giving and taking. It's the principle acknowledge what already is in reality, because it's already there. So acknowledge. The third one is about the great order. Everything is in order. Everything is in place. The elder are the big ones, and the children are the young ones. So that's a vertical order. Well, that's about order in nature. The man is always at the right of the woman. That's the natural energy order. Okay. And the one I want to mention is being a part of the group. In Dutch, erbij horen. That's one of the most profound needs a human has. Being part of the group. If you feel that you're not part of the group, it's you get a pain signal in your head.
Yeah,
So being ignored is like torture.
for sure. I've experienced that pain of not being a part of the group before, and it is very painful. Community is vital for humans.
Yeah.
We need it. We've been brought up like throughout human civilization. We have always had tribes and communities.
Yeah.
It's only recently that we have been encouraged to go alone, and this is a one-man race to the top.
Mm. And that's also related to this collective trauma I told you about this. Get salary, get a home, get a good job. That's an individual part of having a life. It's about my own need and greed and my own career. It's not about have a good life with your family. That's the best we can have. No. So the whole society, the Western society, is about economic profit of the others. Even healthcare is a profit business. So people get money for helping others. It's crazy in some way.
We have to have money in order to survive in this society, though.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And then I say sometimes, get a real job and do voluntary your work with people, helping and supporting, and go make something with your hands or something, or I don't know, but do it for free. Because when you have money between it, it has to be controlled and it has to be, etc., etc. There's so much between a human being needing support and a human being giving support. There's all company and human management and etc., etc. Advisors and policy makers and laws and computer systems. It's all in between those people.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Takes us away from being human, right?
Yeah. We have this conference, Crazy Wise conference in the Netherlands after the documentary Crazy Wise. And last year I was 2021, I was the conference chairman for this day. So it was a really nice role hosting the day. It was in a church also, and we had a lot of good speakers and also international. So it's you can see it at YouTube. I didn't see it myself because it's too big to see. Still, I can see myself having this role there, because then I look to myself with criticism, and it's my ego is in the way to look to this. But today I saw a bit from it because I'm reading this book. It's a new book in Dutch from Sifra Noter, and it's about the birth of the new earth. And Sifra was opening that day with a drum. She's like a shaman teaching, and she was opening the day and she was closing the day. So today I saw, because I was reading her book, it's lovely because she has this reincarnation stories from the tribes, from people 1,000 years ago. I guess she can be with those spirits and telling the stories they really had in that moment of human life. And she tells about like an Indian story of a child who knows it cannot walk as fast as the tribe does. So the mother knows it also, and then she describes how they have to lose the connection, and the child knows, well, the tribe goes on and I have to stay here. So the tribe has a meeting of decision making. Well, we have to lose this child. So they give the child offers and flesh and comforting stuff. And then the tribe goes on, and this child is dying, and it feels it's dying in the cold, in the snow. And then there's energy and there's light, and the child is hearing birds. And then it can have to choose. It's allowed to choose. You can go to the light or you can go to the birds. What do you want? And this child prefers to be with the bird, and one of the birds is opening his system, and the soul of the child goes into the bird. And then the child see itself laying in the snow, dying, and it's lifted up and it goes along with the birds. And next day the birds are with the tribe again, and the child is looking, oh, there's my mom, and the mom is looking up, and they connect. And in the evening the tribe stops walking some earlier, and they celebrate the transformation of the child being with the birds. And they feed the birds with the best food they have. Oh, I love this story.
Oh, that's
in the book. So I read this to my daughter today, And
Yeah.
afterwards, and she really liked it. And she was, it's also like in Game of Thrones. There's also a guy, he's connected with a crown, and he has 3 eyes, and telling about, and he was pushed down the stairs, and he broke his leg. So she's really integrating it in Games of Thrones. I didn't see it, but she likes to see this. So she appreciated it. And afterwards, I thought, well, I know this woman who has written this book because last year we were together at the Crazy Wise conference. So that's why I saw her YouTube piece. So it feels like a friend joining into this conversation. And she also writes about Crazy Wise in the book because she meets a guy in psychosis and he wants help of her and her friend, and they can't help him. So the description of being with him through all those stages of consciousness with him, and she couldn't help him. So she brings him back to the family, saying, "Well, maybe you need medication afterwards, after all, because I can't help you." So she describes it in the book, and then the family comes in with grandma and the sister of the guy and parents, and they started to cry, and he's getting angry to the grandmother. Why did you do it? And then the grandmother said, I can't say because this is the gas in my throat from the camps, because she was a Jew. So it's related to the war again. And then the sister comes in defending grandma. Grandma did this for you, and she did that, and she wanted to help you, and she called the mental health care because you were not okay. You were with blood. You were confused. And then he finally says, "Oh, grandma, sorry. I apologize." And then the family is in grief and they cry. And then Sifra goes home. It's theirs. It's not mine. She did her job. Oh, I love this story. It's the best story about psychosis ever.
Wow, I want to read more. I'm definitely going to get that book. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, it's in Dutch. I don't know if it can be translated. I don't know.
Maybe there will be a translation. Hopefully, there will be a translation.
Yeah, but I really like it because it now exists. This is a real story, and she's so in detail telling about trauma, about this trauma family system and psychosis and the role of it. Yeah.
Well, it's important work.
Can I show another book?
You can, but I want to interject first of all.
Okay.
Your daughter loves Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
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 I have also not watched Game of Thrones, but it was filmed in my town.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So if you ever come to Ireland, you're more than welcome to, and I can show you all the Game of Thrones sites.
I will say this to her. She's really, oh, really? Oh, this is cool. Yeah. And it's also funny because her best friend from school, she's now in Ireland. So that's also funny. I don't know where, but she's at a holiday somewhere. Yeah.
Pass.
Okay, check.
Yeah. Crazy Wise documentary. For some reason, it rings a bell for me. I don't know. If you recommended it to me? Or...
Yeah, maybe. It's Phil Borgs made this documentary.
That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
I was literally listening to a podcast with him like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He mentioned it, and I had it saved, prepared to watch. That's why you're in the documentary.
No. No, the documentary is like the inspiration of the Crazy Wise conference in the Netherlands. So there are about 10 people, like ambassadors of this documentary, and they decided, well, we can have a day about teams talking and interviewing people. And also they interviewed Sean Blackwell. So the first time Sean Blackwell was also initiating this day. And this was the 7th conference this year on the 7th of July, the 7th conference. So really nice. Yeah.
Wow, nice. I am going to go to that next conference. I don't care what I'm doing, I'm going to go.
Well, it's also a Dutch internet page, www.crazywise.nl. So you can see the new coming date. I don't know when, but it will be.
Is the conference all in Dutch, or is it in...
No, not all. There was also a YouTube link now from the last time. And there's also a psychiatrist from Liberia, I guess. He was in English talking. And to be honest, I felt so much anger or war or something in this vibe. So I wanted to skip this part. So I didn't see what he did. I went up to the toilet at that moment. So I skipped it.
Right.
Because I didn't want to connect with this story somehow.
Interesting. Yeah, you're very sensitive with energies. You're very able to pick up on energies.
Oh, I want to share also something.
Yeah, go on ahead.
Yeah, I see this at my table. That's this one. It's cards. Also, it's the only thing I have left from this girl I talked about who jumped out of the window with her suicide. She drew some text once. I still have it. And this is the text from Emma. She's the maker of the cards. And this was my fourth psychosis in 2011. She drew about this. I don't tell the whole story, but she's a rabbi from Israel, and we met in Zwaal, in the middle of the Netherlands. And she was at the airport in 2005, and she was like, I'm waiting for my plane from Amsterdam to Israel because she was in Portugal. So she was waiting for a plane. And she felt suddenly, maybe I will meet someone today. But what shall I do? So she opened the Bible at a random page, and there was like the phrase, today this will be a day as hot as a stove, she told me afterwards. So that was an acknowledged moment for her to say, I skipped my flight. I go to the northern Netherlands to this place called Bijlen. And that's the place where Etty Hillesum was transferred to in World War II as a Jewish woman, like Anne Frank. But Anne Frank is like 15 years old or 16 years old. And Etty Hillesum, she was in her late 20s. So that was an adult woman. And she wrote books about spirituality and growing. And so Emma Shamba is her name. She decided to go to the northern of the Netherlands to meet somebody. And I was in 2005 in psychosis, and I suddenly thought, well, I have to go to my father. So I left the room of my house, the door open, the windows open, and just out of the blue went also to the same place, Zwolle, in the northern of the Netherlands. And I never came at my father's place at that day because Emma and I just met on the stage at the platform of the station, the railway station. And she was in a wet dress, and I suddenly cried my grief about my mother, and she gave me some comfort, and she followed me because she had this signal of follow this guy. I don't know, but she followed. There was another guy, and he wanted a party. And he was like, he saw I was vulnerable, so he misused my psychosis, and he took money from me, and he wanted to share a room at a hotel with the three of us. And then suddenly I felt, whoa, Emma is tired, and this guy is like the devil. I have to get rid of him, but how? And this guy wanted to rent a room, and I just said, well, I don't know this guy. Can we have a glass of water, please? So the police came to arrest this guy, and I called a taxi, and Emma and I went to my father's place And she slept there, and the next morning she was gone, and she had this card with the email address. And I was like crazy. So afterwards I had an argument with my father, and it went all wrong, and I came into the hospital in 2005. And when I was home, I found this note, and I mailed her, and then we had contact again. So ever since we are good friends, and I visited her also in 2006 in this good year. I went to Israel to meet her.
Wow.
And she made cards. It's like square 10 centimeter cards, drawings with phrases, with psalm phrases. And there was a drawing at my father's place about a gate with stairs from gold. It was a present for my father, like as celebrating my mother's dying. And she made one card of it.
It's
is it? Can you see it?
No, it's too blurry.
Not. Yeah. But one of the gates is like this drawing in the living room of my father. And when I got this card set, I see, well, it's my drawing. Yeah, it is. Your inspiration. And she learned Dutch by the book of Etty Hillesum, because that's in Dutch. So she learned Dutch by that book. And so much years later, I'm a bit of a celebrity in the Netherlands with all this, the podcast and the virtual reality, the Confused Man and the Verwarde Man. But she also was invited by the Dutch broadcast organization, and they made a documentary about Palestine and Israel during this crisis in the Middle East, and they interviewed her about Etty Hillesum, this woman from World War II. So she is the main character in this documentary, and you can still see it. That's so another entangled story. Just by seeing those cards on my table, and
yeah, that's another beautiful.
yeah.
What's her documentary called?
In Dutch, it's called Het Denkende Hart van Etty Hillesum, and it's translated like the thinking heart of Etty Hillesum.
The Thinking Heart.
Yeah. I also made this one after seeing this documentary, but it's not, you cannot see it, I guess.
No, again, it's too blurry. We can
Yeah,
add it in the picture description.
It's about this train journey of Etty Hillesum with past, present, space, future, time. It's a drawing, you can see it in a lot of perspectives. And Etty Hillesum made also a note, and she threw it out of the train. And this note says in this drawing, from love with Etty, and from Etty with love. So, yeah, okay. Etty was in the story too. Check. Yeah.
That's amazing. Since we're on the topic of Israel, you went to visit a shaman in Israel, right?
Yeah. I told you the last time.
Yeah.
Timna, yeah.
What was your experience like with the shaman?
And she held also this card deck with the totem animals. And she also told me I had to not following the women, but taking charge as a man and being in front of the route, being a leader. That was not so nice to hear, but it was true. Yeah.
The hard truths are the hardest to take, but the best to take action on.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the work you're doing with the Dutch police and VR?
Yeah, okay. That's also a long story, but okay. The Dutch television broadcast organization started on their own about the idea, can we do a journalism topic with virtual reality, just to try out how much it costs and, well, what shall we make? And they thought, if we do Psychosis, we can put all delusions and strange things in this virtual reality. So let's do Psychosis. But they didn't have a real story. And I was already sharing my story in the Netherlands. So another reporter, a colleague, said, well, you have to ask Jeroen, because I have an interview 2 months ago, and he's an okay guy. He's not too much vulnerable that after some questions he will be in a psychosis again, something like that. So they connected to me, and Cyril, that was the producer, called to me. Well, this is Caro and Chauffé. This is the name of the broadcast. We are having a VR project. Do you want to join? So of course, really nice. So what do you need from me? He said, are you available tomorrow? It's like, okay, this is media. They just want you immediate. And I said to my colleagues, it was during work time, well, they asked me to go tomorrow. Can I skip tomorrow my work or not? Yeah, go. Just do it. Have fun. So I went to this to the broadcast organization in Hilversum in the middle of the Netherlands. That was amazing because it was a meeting with about 12 people. And I was agenda 1, Jeroen, just talk, just like we do. And oh, this is interesting. And this is psychosis, or is this mania, or is this hypermania? So they didn't know anything, but they really wanted details of my life to put into this VR story. But I didn't have a story yet. So they heard some of those clips of life events and thinking, wow, that's interesting, and very curious and asking. And I was, whoa, this is nice. So afterwards, it felt like table tennis, and they had all one bet, and I had 14. So ding, 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 ding. It felt like that. But there was a script writer, and an audio person, a manager was there, some guy from VR, the chief was there. So it was a mixed group, and they really got enthusiastic about my stories of 5 psychosis. And then afterwards, they sent me home with a little check of a cadeau check to, okay, we can't pay you, but here's some present for you. But in this first moment, I also asked, well, you're having this deal with VR, and it costs a lot of money, but somehow I want also make money with this. Is it possible? Whoa, they said, that's a good question, but no, it's not possible because it's a non-profit organization, so it's not allowed to do that for you. I said, okay, that's fine. And then 5 weeks later, they asked, well, what's your address? Because we sent you something. And they just sent the poster of the VR. And then I got it in my hands. So, whoa, they're really making it. It is. I also have it here. The drawn my daughter with pink colors, and this the verwarde man, the confused man, saying it, and a production of, and all those names, and my name also in it. So, whoa, they're making such a reality about my life. That's stunning. That's unbelievable. Really, it's about those 2011 crisis where my reality became confused reality. They're making now virtual reality from it, and that's my reality now. It's mind-blowing.
How confusing.
Confusing also. But it happens. And then there was this moment in time, they were finishing it. And they asked me also with the voiceover, and they used my piano melodies, and even they used a photo from the isolation cellar. It came also in the VR. And then they asked, well, can you come to Amsterdam? Because we have this premiere, something intern party. And that was the first time I had VR, experiencing my own story.
Wow.
And
Surreal.
And there was so much energy at this first meeting. They were so proud. It was so perfect made. It's really a calm story. That's the only thing. Maybe I thought, this is really it's not about heavy crisis psychosis. It's a drawn, cartoonish story in 50 minutes from normal to crisis. But I had this on my head, and I said, well, this is really nice, because when I show it to my daughter, she will understand what happened back then in 2011. So that they really appreciated that. But then it was like a news item, the first ever virtual reality made by Caro and Chifé with Jeroen Zwaal. And suddenly I was in the App Store and in the Android Google store, and seeing myself, my name, and whoa, what's happening here? And they asked me in a live show, Dutch television, with a political leader also at the table, because it was election time. So I sat down with Geert Wilders. That's a famous guy. It's not he is really discriminating and stuff. So I don't like his work, but okay. As a guy, he's okay. I was in the radio, television, newspapers. So it was like a exploding. Yeah. And I just thought, well, I'm in the big wave now, and on a tiny surfboard, and I just roll with this big wave to the coast, and it's okay. Let's do it.
Wow. Surf's up, baby.
Yeah. A lot of telephone rings and emails and radio and interviews and newspaper, etc., etc. I have also here one. It's also not, but it's a newspaper. It's like confusion sucks you into the depth, with a picture of me, and also here as a newspaper, a picture of the VR, and well, suddenly I was into it. And because I had this question about making money with it, when it was finished, I was already a peer professional using his own story at congresses and et cetera, and high schools and university. And then I thought, well, with VR, I can do my story and giving them the VR, and they become me in this virtual reality story. And then I tell my recovery story afterwards. And that was what I started. And then police came also, well, we want it also. Okay, I come. So it was about 2017. And ever since, this is now my work. This is the only thing I do most. Going to whatever, community builders or university or prison or police. And I sit down with 12 VRs with people and having a conversation in 2 hours.
Wow. Your story is incredible.
Really?
Honestly, I inspire to you inspire me, and I aspire to help my community as much as you're helping yours. Really. You're such a blessing to this world.
Oh.
I'm so grateful for
Mm.
you.
Well, this is a showing off story, but know that tomorrow I'm having grief and headaches and not feeling well about myself, crunchy old man. So I accept really what you say, but it vanishes too quickly. But this is nice this is the big header of the confused man virtual reality in the upper. It's the logo. My wife made it. So
Amazing.
Mm.
I'm going to round this up with 3 quick fire questions for you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The first one is, what are 3 things that you are grateful for today?
Being a good myself, a good father, and a good partner.
Perfect. Question 2. What are 2 goals that you would like to achieve? Maybe you could do one short term, one long term, or both, whatever.
Okay. One goal is being an artist, and that it's when I draw something, you have also in the Netherlands Herman Brood, and he paid his taxi drive just by flat, drawing. Here you go, and then it was okay. So that's one dream, that I just make something and people, oh, that's nice. I want to pay a lot of money for just a little story. Oh, that's a shame to say, but that's the goal I want to achieve. So, but that's one goal, that I'm really appreciated as an artist with those silly drawings I make. Okay. The second one is like having a little cottage in the field with a forest near and a little stream of water running into my garden, and a tiny house. It doesn't need to be big, but a lot of space to make a campfire, something like that, and a big stable or yarn, or what's the name, to do workshops with people.
Beautiful. I believe both of those are extremely. I believe both of those will happen for you.
Yeah, really? I hope so.
Keep going for it, man.
Yeah.
Your art speaks for itself, and that house with the river, it's beautiful. Last question. Who is one person that you would like to let them know that you love them?
Oh. Yeah. That's a difficult question too, and it's also really easy, because my wife and I are having troubles together, because we change a lot, because we grow a lot. She also had trauma, and it's too difficult, and we're searching for a way to be so much connected again. So this is the best way to say I love you so much to my wife. And also I say I love my father very much, but it's so complicated, but I know it's okay. And I love my mother so much, because she is directing from somewhere else all those pieces together. And I can say, well, don't do that anymore, but she still does. So I love her too.
Wow. You fill my heart with so much.
And a big love to my daughter also, of course. I can't skip her in the story. Yeah, she's my mirror. Sorry, I interrupt you.
Beautiful. No, it's good. I'm glad you interrupted for the love for your daughter. But actually, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
This is more of a personal question. I don't know. Maybe we can add it in the podcast as well. Like, see your spiritual experiences. All of these synchronicities that happen for you. You have so many of them. There's all beautiful stories. Do these all start from your intuition?
Well, then my intuition says there's no start and there's no beginning. So there's no start. If I learn life being on a cycle, big cycles, small cycles, then there's no end, there's no beginning. And if you feel that, then magic happens. Life and death is one and the same point of birth, and death is one point of a circle. And it's like there was a delusion of myself, like, well, we all know this being two parts, the man part and the women part inside yourself, of being your piece of your father and piece of your mother. But in one delusion I felt really, well, I have this Jeroen guy from death, growing into his birth timeline backwards, and there's a Jeroen growing from birth to death in normal time, but they meet always in the middle. That's present. So let them have a dance together and help them each other, because I've already been there. Oh yeah, okay, sure. Go to my to my history, because I was been there. Okay, that's okay. So that's what I believe. And when this dance is like in present, yeah, then also this synchronicity takes place.